Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for watching. And it's a different type of video today in that we're not talking about the models I'm painting, we're talking about the handles that I'm painting them on. So I want to talk about painting handles, why you might want to use them, why I think it's useful using them, and talk about which ones out there I think are the best. Now, this is not a full range of painting handles, but we're going to go through, the model blue tacked onto a cork. We're going to talk about the current Games Workshop handle. This is the latest of the Games Workshop ones that I've picked up. I'm going to talk about which, to me, is a new style of painting handle. Seems very popular on the market at the moment. The kind of style where you've got a base unit at the bottom and then a removable, twistable top that lets you swap the models in and out on and just use the one base unit. And with what seems to be the most popular at the moment, this Redgrass Games one here, which we're looking at, which is great, but there's a couple of problems I found with it. Again, we'll talk about that later. Now, a few months ago, I bought one of the brand new Games Workshop style handles. I've been using about 10 of the old Games Workshop handles for quite a while. Bought another one because I had a batch of 11 to do. So you'd think, why didn't I just buy more of that style of handle? Well, I do have my reasons. I can talk about it later. But I researched out there which is the best of the sort of what I would consider the newer style painting handles. And these two kind of came up quite a lot. Now, the one on the left, the yellow one, is just an Amazon special. So not super expensive and seemed to get some decent reviews. We'll set that up in a second. This one here is what seems to be the most popular on the market at the moment, the Redgrass Games painting handle. A lot of incredibly talented painters use this and sing the praises of it, so I figured can't go far wrong with this one. So these are the two I kind of picked up, we'll set them up, and I'm sure these work in a similar way to this style of handle that whatever manufacturer you get them from. You get a little metal disc with the Redgrass Games one that you're meant to stick down to your painting table, and at the bottom of the handle it's a little magnet to stick it down on there so you don't knock it over in between sessions if your model is still on top of the handle. You get a little twistable lid that removes, and there's like a pin that's obviously got some sort of function in the bottom to make it turn around, and then the top sort of grips onto that pin and sort of then would spin the model around. You get a little packet of, it's kind of a blue tack equivalent. The idea is you stick that onto the top of the handle and put your model directly on top. Now, this is why I wanted handles other than the Games Workshop ones. When I bought the Leviathan box set, there's a lot of models in there that are on 50mm bases. The Games Workshop ones only go 40mm wide. Now, Games Workshop do a bigger painting handle, but it's awful. We'll touch on that later. That's why I'm not going to use that. I do own one and just hated it. So stick the model on, and then you can hold the handle yourself. You can twist the model around and it's all mounted. So that was quite an easy setup, the Redgrass Games one. A little bit more work to do with the Amazon special. Now, you get this kind of weird metal contraption to put around it, and that's meant to be like a finger rest, so you can put your finger up on the model. Now, I really didn't like it, so I did set it up. I had to go at one model with it. I took it off. Now, to set the rest of it up, you get 5 lids, if that's the right word, with this, so slightly more versatile in terms of the number of parts you get. A bit of assembly to do by putting a metal disc into the lid, and these fasten down onto a magnet in the top of the handle rather than having that sort of pin contraption that the Redgrass Games one has. So this is a little bit cheaper than the Redgrass Games one, and you do get 5 sort of lid parts, so maybe slightly more versatile in that sense for doing bigger batches and having more there if you're particularly conscious of kind of what things cost. But you mount the model in the same way. In this case, it's like an orange tack, and you stick the model on top exactly the same way that you do for the Redgrass Games. And there is a magnet in the bottom of the handle, stick it down something metal. Now, the top is sort of formed slightly differently, so there's more of a sort of inset in this lid, and it's a slightly wider top. And we'll go through the kind of how the handle performs and things later on, but the setup is very similar. And actually, the setup is similar to the very old school method we're going to show here, which is literally a cork from a wine bottle with a bit of blue tack. And I've also done it on a couple of paint pots. Now, this is something I did for absolutely years and years, and I've moved away from as sort of genuine painting handles were developed by various companies. But I thought it's a bit fun to go to old school, because if you don't have a lot of funds available and you don't want to spend a lot of money on handles, that is the cheapest way of doing this. Again, in a bit we'll talk about why you want to use a painting handle. So how to set up models on the Games Workshop one. You see there, this is the old Games Workshop one, they don't make anymore. But the lid does screw on and screw off, but they never made spare lids for it, so I don't know why they did that. And the top itself, you pull it apart, there's some springs inside and it grips the model. You've got a couple of stepped areas for different width of bases, but again, it only goes up to a 40mm base. Now, these I've used for years, so these are probably my comfort zone of painting handle. So, I do have fond thoughts towards them. Now, I'm going to paint the termagants in the background of this video, but this is not what it's about. If you want a termagant painting video, check the channel, check the links and all that kind of malarkey down below, or check the playlists I've got, and the termagant painting video will be in there along with all the other tyranny videos. And look, check the rest of the channel out, it's always appreciated. So we're going to talk about the handles. Now really, why would you want to use a painting handle? There are lots of reasons, and people might give you lots of different reasons, but for me, two main things. One, comfort. It's not overly comfortable gripping a small model with your thumb and forefinger while you're painting it. It's kind of hard to move it around. You do a lot of sort of strange finger grips and it gets quite tiring, especially when you're painting for a long time. So comfort. Second reason is if you touch the model itself with your fingers, before you get onto the base, whatever you're picking up off the table, the grease from your fingers can go onto that model and then the paint won't stick properly. Or if you've been painting a while and you've got paint on your fingers, you might end up rubbing paint onto a part of a model that you didn't want that paint on. Or the other side, you might rub the paint off that you've just put on as you move that model back to the table. You catch an area you've just painted and you're ruining your paint job. Painting handles eliminate that. Now, as you can see, I was going through all the different style of painting handles as I was going and just getting a feel for what I preferred and what I liked, and I came across a massive problem with the Redgrass Games one. You can see here, as it's spinning, it's catching and being really awkward to turn it around. Now, I really liked the ability to turn the model around. It was great because you kept all your fingers in the same place and turned it. But the pins inside this were not mounted correctly and not mounted flush, so it was causing it to drag on the edge of the handle. Now, foolishly, I grabbed out the pliers and I thought I'm going to straighten this. It's not made of super strong metal, and I snapped one of these pins. Look, my fault. I probably should have contacted them and said, this is faulty, give me a new one. I didn't, I thought I'd fix it. Now I straightened it out, I glued it back together, put the lid back on, and it fixed perfectly flush, and it fixed that kind of dragging issue that was causing me problems turning it round. Drawback though is I did glue the lid on. Not a problem as such for me because I've only got one lid to go on there, but it now means it won't be as versatile because I can't order a pack of spare lids to use it with. So my fault, I'm not really going to mark this handle down for that. I should have contacted them, and I assume, being a modern kind of retail company, they'd have said, oh, really sorry, and either sent me a replacement out or whatever they'd have done. So I'm not necessarily going to mark them down, and I'm assuming because of they get a good opinion, they'd have fixed that for me. So as I'm going through these handles, so advantages and disadvantages. Now, going very old school to the cork and a paint pot, look, it's fine. It is cheap. I did that for years and years and years. Disadvantages are the cork and things are quite small in your hand. Whilst it's better than not using anything, what you will find, the bigger, the heavier model will start to slowly fall off because the grip point for the blue tack on the cork or on the pot isn't great. So for small, light models, it's absolutely fine. Going to a larger model, it does have a problem where the blue tack will start to peel off, the model will start to fall, and it's not necessarily ideal. Perfectly fine for starting it. And a big advantage of the painting handle style is the side of the base is kind of visible on this style of painting handle, whether it be a cork or a thing. So you can actually do the whole process and paint the side of the base as well and never having to touch the model. So it's not too bad, but not something I would recommend if you've got a bit of spare cash to pick up some painting handles. The Games Workshop painting handles, again, have all the benefits, gripping a model, etc, etc. If you're worried about how long the spring's going to last, I've had mine for years, the springs are absolutely fine. The problem is when you come to, say, painting the bases, you've got to unclip it, take them all out. If you've only got one of those Games Workshop painting handles because you're limited funds or you only want to pay for one, you are going to have to take models in and out of that one handle, which defeats the point for me of not handling the model. One of the main reasons I like them. The Redgrass Games and the Amazon Special, because you can get replacement lids, that's not going to be a problem. At the end of the process though, you're going to have to take these models off the handles when you're finished, or off the little lids, and you do lose a little bit of blue tack on the base of that model. Not a massive problem because blue tack's not too expensive to replace. So as you go through them there, you probably find the most versatile is really going to be the newer style of painting handle. As we look at some side shots and you understand the reasons I said before. So the cork, you're only gripping it with a couple of fingers. So again, that problem of kind of the ergonomics are not so good, and you will, like you see there, knock the model around occasionally, have to pull it back. The Games Workshop handles I find really, really comfortable. And look, if you've got the funds to go out and buy 10 of them, and you only want it for model 40mm or less, these are great. I do find the newer one even more comfortable with how your top fingers can kind of curl around the base there. Now the Redgrass Games handle, I found it fit my hand really, really well. The turning mechanism was really quite easy to use, and it meant you weren't having to move your hands around a lot. And yet, if I hadn't have broken the lid, probably absolutely fine. The Amazon Special, again, it was actually relatively comfortable. I've got quite large hands. I'm 6'2", so I don't have small hands, but I found this even too big for my hands, and I like to rest my hand on a table quite often, and you can't do that with the new painting handle. So they've all got their strengths and weaknesses. The only real strength of the paint pot and blue tack and cork method is it is super, super cheap. It has more drawbacks than anything else though, but if you've got no other funds, do that, try it, see how you like it, and understand, you know, the benefits of not picking up the model and touching it a lot. The Games Workshop handle, easy to access, they're in all Games Workshop stores, they're £6, they're not too expensive, and if you're painting a single model on a base of 40mm or less, great, you're not going to have to pick it off the base and swap it around a lot. But I do think the most versatile style of handles is definitely these new ones with the twistable tops, where you can take the top on and off and you can have multiple tops for one handle to the models. Now again, I broke the Redgrass Games one, but to be fair, between the two of them, ergonomically the Redgrass Games has the edge. I find the Amazon Special, the handle, a little bit too large even for my hands, but it is cheaper. You do get 5 tops with it, and it is quite a nice one. The Redgrass Games just edges it out slightly. Now for me, what you're going to see in my channel is I'm going to use the Redgrass Games one when I'm doing single models that are on bases more than 40mm. For everything else, I'm going to use the Games Workshop old school one because I've got lots of them. And again, 40mm or less bases, you'll see it used on that. But if I was starting from scratch right now, I'd have a hard time deciding what to do. I think maybe I'd pick up a couple of games. Well, being me, I already own 10 of the Games Workshop ones. I'd probably just go buy 10 of them for batch painting, Space Marines and things. And I would pick up a Redgrass Games one for doing other things. So I'm being very broad in what I'm saying. I'm just giving you my thoughts. But my thoughts are on this one, the extra large Games Workshop, putting big models on, it's terrible. I put a Sentinel on it, it fell off. I put some large models, it fell off. It's massive, it's really unwieldy. Don't go anywhere near this one. Again, just my thoughts though. Now, if you did enjoy that ramble, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on another, hopefully more sensible video.